All right, so my first step is going to be to brainstorm about my recipe. I'm going to be writing about how to make chicken nuggets. So the first thing I know is when I get chicken nuggets, they come frozen. I also know that they're not very big. They're small, so I'm going to write small. I know they're made of chicken. I know that when they're done, they're crispy, which I like about them. I know they're going to cook in the oven. Remember, this can be caveman talk. I know I'm going to have to turn on the oven. I have to make sure that's okay. I know they have dip in them, which I really like. So there are some of the main things I know about chicken nuggets, and I'm going to make a circle around it after I've brainstormed. Okay, so I've erased my circle map. I took a picture of it so we can have it if we need it. But now we're going to go on to our flow map. Remember, our flow map is where we take something that we know is a part of what happens first. Then we draw an arrow to something that might happen next. Then we draw an arrow and we come back down here to maybe a third thing, okay, and keep going. So I know the first thing I'm going to do with my chicken nuggets, if they are frozen, as we've already said, I'm going to take them from somewhere. Where am I going to get them from? The freezer. So I'm going to take from freezer. Remember, it's okay to use caveman talk here. It doesn't have to be a full sentence. So I take from freezer. Then what do I put them on? What kind of a thing in the kitchen am I going to need to use for a utensil or some type of an item I need? I'm going to put them on they have to go in the oven, so they wouldn't go in a pan. I don't want them on a plate because the oven would be too hot for a plate. I could put them on a pan. Okay, put them on a pan. Okay, next, after I put them on the pan, I'm also going to get the oven hot. That's called preheating the oven. So I'm going to preheat the oven. Okay, that means it's heating up. What's going to come next? After I've preheated the oven, what am I going to do? They're already on a pan. The oven's now hot. Then what do I want to do? Put them in the oven. Now I want to think, this is a good place I could write. We're brainstorming, so it's okay for me to add. I'm going to preheat the oven. How hot do I think that oven needs to be? 10 degrees? 100 degrees? 1,000 degrees? 400 degrees? What do you think is the right answer? So preheat the oven, and then maybe I would put my temperature here. Okay, then I put them in the oven. How long am I going to cook them? How long do you think I would need to cook chicken nuggets? A minute? 20 minutes? 5 minutes? 6 hours? What do you think? Okay, so maybe I could say bake with an E for, for mine, I'm going to say 20 minutes, I think is right. Okay, 20 minutes for my chicken nuggets. And I'm going to say 400 degrees. And here's a funny thing. When you do a number like 400, and then you put a little tiny circle above it, it looks like an O, a little one that's much smaller than your number, that means degrees. So when I write 400 and a little circle, that means 400 degrees. Okay? So bake for 20 minutes. Then I already talked on my circle map about one of the things I like is that they're crispy. Another thing I like is that they have dipping sauces. So I'm going to say make dip. Okay? Then I'm going to go down. Remember, my arrows always go from one thing to the next. And remember, my long arrow helps me come back to this one. Shows me I go here next, over to this one, then over to here. My flow map is always flowing like water, right? So I've baked them. I've made dip. And then I'm going to say serve when crunchy. Serve when crunchy. All right, so these are some things And I also want to include why I like them. I like equals, oops, I'm leaving off letters today. So I like dip and I like crunchy. It's okay to use my caveman talk here. All right, so I have taken a picture of my flow map and I have it right next to me. I'm going to show you. So what I've done is I put it on my computer right here. So I'm going to be looking at that as I go, and it's really going to help me, I think, to be able to keep track of what I'm writing and to do it in a way that I don't lose track, okay? So whenever we write, we know that we want to start with something important. It's the beginning. What comes at the beginning? Then introduction. Okay, so I need to tell what I'm going to be writing about. So I have lots of ways I can do that. I can say something like, today I'm going to share with you how to make chicken nuggets. I could say, my favorite recipe in the world is chicken nuggets. Let me tell you about that. I could say, the recipe I made during quarantine was chicken nuggets. Notice the one common theme is I'm telling you each time, each different way I do it, I'm telling you what my recipe is about. So make sure your introduction includes what your recipe is about. So I'm going to say, my favorite quarantine recipe, see there, recipe, is chicken nuggets. 2 G's in nuggets. Okay, you can see most of it there. My favorite quarantine recipe is chicken nuggets. Okay, now I don't have to go to the next line. I just keep going right after nuggets. So when I'm writing, my flow chart says the first thing is to take from the freezer, put on a pan, and preheat the oven. Okay? I can choose now that I'm going to make each one of my steps into a whole sentence, or it would be okay to include a couple of things in each sentence. But my beginning, here's my introduction, that's first, but then I'm going to begin to explain how. So I'm going to say first. Remember that transition word? First, comma, I will take frozen nuggets from my freezer and put them on a pan. Okay? I will take frozen nuggets from my freezer and put them on a pan. What do I need at the end? A period. I started with a capital. Make sure each one of your sentences begins with a capital and ends with a period, question mark, or exclamation point. All right, so first I've included take from freezer, put on pan. Then I'm going to preheat the oven, put them in the oven, and bake. So let's keep going here. All right, I said first here. I'm going to say next, because it's not last and it's not first, it's the next thing. Next, I will turn on, I'm going to say turn on my oven, because that's a little easier than preheat. Oven to 400 degrees. And bake them for 20 minutes. Okay, next I will turn on my oven to 400 degrees and bake them for 20 minutes. Okay, Next over here on my flow chart is making dip, serve them when they're crunchy, and be sure to include what you like. Okay, I can include what I like anywhere along the way, but it probably would be wise to do that at the end because that would help me with my conclusion. Okay, let's read what we have so far. My favorite quarantine recipe is chicken nuggets. First, I will take frozen nuggets from my freezer and put them on a pan. Next, I will turn on my oven to 400 degrees and bake them for 20 minutes. Okay, I'm going on to making dip and serving when they're crunchy. I could say it like this. Also, I will make, oops, I forgot my M had another bump. Make dip from ranch barbecue and honey mustard. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. I will make dip from ranch barbecue and honey mustard. I want to make sure they know I'm doing this while they're baking. So I'm going to, instead of a period here, I'm going to turn that into a comma. Also, I will make dip from ranch, barbecue, and honey mustard while they bake. Okay. Then I am moving on to, I've made the dip. I'm going to serve them when they're crunchy and say that I like them crunchy and with dip. So, here we go. Do you love moving around with me, or are you about ready to get a headache, huh? I wonder. Okay, so I made dip. Now I'm going to say serve when they're warm and crunchy. I like the word finally because that's the last step. Finally, comma, like also, comma, next, comma, first, comma, finally, comma, I will serve the nuggets when they are, I'm going to say, not just crunchy, but hot and crunchy. I like, so this is, oh, I should have told you before I started. Okay, that is all the steps. I want to say that I like them, and I'm going to use that for part of my conclusion. My conclusion, I have introduction. My favorite quarantine recipe is chicken nuggets. My conclusion is going to be, I like making chicken nuggets, and then I'm going to say why. Okay, that's my conclusion. I like making chicken nuggets because they are crunchy, and I'm out of room, so I'm just going to use this right down here. Okay, I'm gonna adapt. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? Because they are crunchy and are good with dip. Okay, so let me read you my whole quarantine recipe all together. My favorite quarantine recipe is chicken nuggets. First, I will take frozen nuggets from my freezer and put them on a pan. Next, I will turn on my oven to 400 degrees and bake them for 20 minutes. Also, I will make dip from ranch, barbecue, and honey mustard while they bake. Finally, I will serve the nuggets when they are hot and crunchy. I like making chicken nuggets because they are crunchy and good with dip.